warmed up and ready, and we're back on a Friday morning. I'm home, even though it looks like I might still be at a campground. It's just loud as heck inside, and it's about as quiet as a spot as we'll find for the next 15 minutes together. So, Nick, what in the world are we talking about this Friday morning?
Well, I saw somebody on the interwebs talking once again about how it is going to be a really difficult thing for people when the new final rule gets implemented on October 15th of 2023, and how face-to-face agents who are running leads are basically dead when that happens if you're selling Medicare, and that it's just going to be impossible to continue running leads, and you're going to have to switch to, I don't know, 100% referrals. Yeah, there are worse things you could do, but this is like, I'm not going to call anybody in particular out, but this guy is not the only person who's said this sort of thing. I've been hearing this a lot. A lot of sky is falling from people who are used to running their Medicare business based on Medicare leads. It's a lot of sky is falling stuff. As though prior to 2018, nobody was running leads, right? Like people only started running Medicare leads. So like 2019 was the first year anybody ever ran a Medicare lead.
The first lead ever generated is 001-2019.
Right, exactly. Right. Because like the 48-hour rule is like back. It's not new, right? And so those of us who have been doing this for a little while recognize that this is not that really not that big of a deal. But the thing is, a whole bunch of people got into the Medicare industry in 2019 and 2020 and 2021, and started selling Medicare for the first time. And they've never known a world where the 48-hour rule existed before, and they don't know how to do it. And so they're like, people, there are lots of ways to sell Medicare. There's lots of ways to prospect for Medicare. You can do seminars, you can do educational seminars, you can do sales seminars, you can set up a booth at a Walmart, you can do all kinds of grassroots marketing campaigns. There's all sorts of ways that you can, yes, market Medicare. But if what you're used to doing is running leads, setting appointments, and selling off of those leads and appointments, you're still going to be able to do that come October 15th, 2023.
Oh, good.
Like, that's not changing. Like, that's not going away. So
what's interesting is I heard Christian mention recently that a lot of the 48-hour scope may have rooted itself in different administrations, like because CMS is a government organization appointed by the federal government. We had a Republican administration and we didn't have a 48-hour scope. We have a Democratic administration. We do have a 48-hour scope. I found that interesting because if I'm awake and it's during the sales week, I'm probably listening to some type of insurance content. I just found that as an interesting side note to the on and off of the 48-hour scope. But more importantly, you're going to talk about minding the compliance line, and I'm going to talk about pushing the line so that people can realize they can still make money throughout the course of this new old 48-hour scope.
Right. So here's the thing. People want to talk about Medicare. People want to talk about their Medicare. You are going to get people calling you, referrals calling you, who want to talk about their Medicare. You are going to be sitting with people who are talking about something not Medicare related, who are going to want to talk about their Medicare. All of these people who are walking around with things like pins on their shirt saying, "Ask me about Medicare," like, they're doing this because this is what had to be done for years and years and years. You are still in a situation where if somebody asks you, "Hey, would you please talk to me about Medicare?" and you get a scope of appointment signed, you are allowed to talk to them about Medicare. Maybe you can't give them a sales presentation for 48 hours. But here's the thing. They're going to still want to talk to you 48 hours later. They wanted to talk to you then. They're asking you, hey, I want to talk about my Medicare. When people talk about scope of appointment, I think there's a lot of misunderstanding of what you are and are not allowed to talk about prior to getting a scope of appointment signed. You are not allowed to talk about plan details or plan specifics prior to getting a scope of appointment signed. But you can give a Medicare 101 presentation prior to getting a scope of appointment signed. You can talk about what their coverage already does, what their coverage that exists already does. You can't compare it to anything, but you can give factual explanations about what their coverage does. You can find out from them things that they are maybe unhappy with about their current coverage. You can find out what medications they take and what doctors they take and kind of network issues. You can talk to them about whether or not they have dental work that they need to get done that they can't afford. You can talk to them about whether they are having a difficult time getting to the doctor because they don't have somebody to take them there. You can find out whether or not they qualify for low-income subsidy. You can find out whether or not they qualify to have their Part B refunded through the SLMB program or something similar. You can find out lots of stuff. You can have lots of conversation. You can lay a lot of groundwork and have that scope of appointment. And then, Mildred, I am going to go and take all of this information that we've gathered today, and I am going to research for you exactly what is going to solve the problems that we've identified here today. And let's meet back in a few days once I've done some research and I've spent a little bit of time really figuring out what the best thing for you is. Not the best thing, you can't say the best thing. What the plan I'm going to recommend for you is. And then in a couple of days, we'll come back and we'll go over those details. And if you agree that that plan is a good fit for you, we'll sign you up then. But I don't want you to rush into anything right now. That's totally okay. Here, sign this. This is called a scope of appointment. It just means that when we get back together in 2 days, all we're talking about is this. We're not going to talk about a million different things. We're just going to talk about finding the best plan for you.
Now, what if the scope of appointment happens to have a date that was 2 days prior to the date that the application is electronically marked? Would that appear to be compliant?
Absolutely. You can. So yeah, your scope of appointment is good by law now. It was ambiguous before, but now your scope of appointment is good for one entire year from the date that it is signed.
So and also realistically, if I enrolled somebody maybe 2, 3, 4 months ago, I have a scope of appointment 2, 3, or 4 months ago, and now I want to revisit them during annual enrollment. Do I need 48, 72, 150 hours before I can enroll them in a new plan?
Technically, no. Technically, no. Now, personally, I like to get a new scope of appointment every time I do a new sales presentation. But that's not the law. That's not required. Personally, I feel like that's going to save me headaches potentially down the road of having to explain the law to somebody who works for an insurance company who is not the compliance officer, but who is like maybe the person who's the gatekeeper before you get to the compliance officer, who would give me a hard time. But I know at the end of the day, if something comes up and it does make it to a compliance officer, I'm going to be on the right side of the law there. So,
and realistically, would you say that most people that work in compliance are just trying to check the 6 boxes on the complaint form that they have to fill out to make sure it's resolved and then put it away?
Yeah. So people are very afraid of compliance and complaints. What you have to understand is very few of these complaints go to CMS. Very, very few. Most of these complaints are being handled by carriers. And the carriers don't want to fire their agents. Their agents are the people who are making the money.
Mm-hmm.
If you work with the carrier is going to work with you. They're going to try to help you out. If you broke the law, they're not going to keep you around. Don't break the law. But as long as you are acting in good faith, you're going to be okay.
I had an agent ask me this morning, she's going through the pre-licensing process, trying to get her ready to sell before AEP because she's going to absolutely dominate her market in an ethical sense. And she's like, well, I'm afraid I'm going to do something wrong. I'm getting all this information from all these other people. And I'm like, honestly, you have to try to do something wrong. You have to like think to yourself, man, this is a really good way to mess this situation up.
Yeah.
And then you have to continue to do that over and over again, continue to get several complaints, have founded complaints, have no production to back up the mistake you make, and then you've got a problem.
Right. The only people who I actually know of who have gotten in very serious compliance trouble, I've heard stories, but I don't know those people. Those are stories. I mean, they tall tales and urban legends I know of. But actual real people who I know who have gotten in genuine compliance trouble have 100% of the time gotten into that compliance trouble because they were either one, actually acting maliciously and trying to break the law, like just flat out trying to commit fraud, or two, not cooperating with the complaint investigation.
Yeah.
And not turning in paperwork in time, and not like, not following up, not making sure paperwork was received, basically just being disorganized and sloppy and not doing the very basic things that they were being asked to do. Those are the only two types of people. I know of one or two agents who were legitimately like signing people up who didn't know that they were being signed up for anything, and they had their licenses taken away, and they should have had their licenses taken away. Probably they should have done jail time. That's forgery. But so I know of a couple of agents who have done that. And then I know of a couple of agents who just like didn't fill out the complaint response form. And then like a week went by, several notifications went by. They were contacted 5 or 6 times by the carrier. And eventually the carrier went, okay, we're terminating you.
They have to do something. They have to close the investigation. They have to click some box that says something happened. And if you don't actually answer the email, that's just on you.
Yeah.
Like I teach all the time. You have to check your mailboxes in this business, your snail mail, your email, your voicemail, your texts, because realistically, it's going to make you money. Like more times than not, you're going to find a referral, a cross sale, a lapse, an add-on just by checking your mailboxes, or a compliance notice that you have to handle. And just handle it.
Yeah. Just get it. Like, don't be afraid. Answer your voicemail, read your email, respond to your emails. It's just not like, at the end of the day, some of what people are afraid of is being a professional. We are in a professional business. If you were selling stocks on, like, if you were a stockbroker, you have to deal with all sorts of SEC compliance issues. Like, but it's a lucrative job. It's worthwhile. Selling Medicare is it's an insanely lucrative job. Like an insanely lucrative job.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, do the math on, like, if you put 1,000 people on your book of business, do the math on what your renewals are going to be.
Stupid.
It's stupid. And 1,000 people is not that many people. It's just not. So it's like, I don't know. You should not be afraid of compliance. You should not be afraid that in 48 hours people are not going to be allowing you to come back in. You should, like, this is I think actually nothing but a good thing for face-to-face agents who are running leads, because these people filled out a lead. They say they want to talk to somebody about their Medicare. Great. Fantastic.
And realistically, there are plenty of ways to create a scope, to get the signatures, to keep it compliant. And if you just do the right thing, like 99% of the time, they're not going to complain.
Yeah.
Like, you can operate in this like push area and doing the right thing and never end up on the other side of the line. No. And you can operate on the extreme side of the line and never write a single application because you're so afraid you're going to get one complaint. and never make any money and fail out of the business. So you have to find where you fit in between the one extreme and the other.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up this morning, I have 2 hot takes for you.
Ooh. Okay.
Hot take number 1. I need to go to every first look, every launch. I know we've covered this before, but there's more and more emails about it. I have to go to every freaking Medicare event in my region. So I am fully prepared the day AEP hits to sit home and contemplate what I'm doing next.
No, you don't. I do recommend that everybody, like, if you have a lead carrier, or maybe 2 lead carriers, I recommend to everybody that you attend one in-person event with those carriers as a networking event. It's a network. It's not. I mean, yeah, you'll learn a little bit about this, about the plans and what's available, but like, this is stuff that you can learn on your own. This is not like rocket science. But as a networking opportunity is a really great opportunity to go meet your regional rep in person, shake their hand, look them in the eye, tell them, hey man, I'm going to write however many apps for that carrier you're going to write that year. Remember my name come AEP. I'm going to be coming to ask you to give me money to pay for my leads. Mm-hmm. That's a fantastic thing to do. Definitely do that.
Yeah.
But you do not need to do that more than once, maybe twice if you have 2 carriers that you're really going to be pounding hard. Don't do it for carriers you're not going to write a ton. Like, if you've got a carrier that you're going to write in like 2 or 3 oddball situations, and you're going to give them like 5 apps, that's a waste of everybody's time. They don't want to meet you. You don't need to meet them. Who cares? But if you're gonna be writing, like, I don't know, Humana is putting on a lot of events right now. I've gotten like 20 emails from Humana recently. If you're going to be writing a bunch of Humana, go to one of those Humana events and meet your local rep. Let them know who you are, and be like, and say, hey, listen, this AEP, I'm writing nothing but Humana. You're getting 100 apps coming in from me. They have numbers that they need to meet also.
Absolutely.
They want that.
I'll tell you a funny story. I didn't attend a single first look outside of Innovative's launch last year.
Sure.
I wrote a boatload of a particular carrier. The name is irrelevant. That rep noticed my name because I wrote a lot of business, and then here's $1,000. Like, that made me money.
Yep.
I made them notice me, and then they sent money my way.
Yeah.
And I get all these emails, and I'm like, I would love to go to a Health Partners event at a Phillies game. It's on a Tuesday. I can't. Tuesday's a sales day. I'm sorry. I'd love to go to an IBX event on a Wednesday afternoon in Springfield, Pennsylvania. Nope. I'm selling insurance that day.
Yeah.
I'll take a first look when it appears in Medicare Center and Sunfire, and I'll figure this crap out face-to-face in the field, because I have to prioritize first things first. And there's a lot of things that can get in the way of that if you let it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, sometimes it's a nice play to get a free meal. So let's watch Phillies game, do something. But like go to the stuff that you can go to if you can. But I would not go out of my way to go to that. The other thing is, if you are online in any of the social media groups, somebody else has gone to these and will be telling you what happened. All you have to do is ask.
We have our own little small as heck Philadelphia region group, and someone goes to an event and someone posts about it.
Yeah.
Give them a thumbs up and appreciate it, and then read about it, and then
ask questions. Yeah, it's great.
Last hot take of the day is a sales scenario.
Sure.
You're confronted with the god-awful worst Medicare Advantage plan you've ever encountered.
Sure.
And you could help this person 6 ways till tomorrow. I encountered this situation yesterday and even texted you to make sure I wasn't missing something.
Right.
Lady was paying like $163 a month for a Medicare Advantage plan.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this couldn't be correct.
Right.
The hot take would be you go crazy and say, Miss Johnson, this plan blows. Boy, I'm going to blow your mind with a new one, and you end up empty-handed. But in that situation, you want to make what's the hot take to address the worst Medicare Advantage plan you ever stumble into?
You want to be very careful. There is an element of sometimes people will feel like if it's too good to be true, it is.
Absolutely.
You want to, at that stage, tread very carefully and rely very heavily on factual printed materials and show exactly. I like to lean on the phrase, I don't want you to trust me. You don't need to trust me. I'm going to show you in black and white what the carrier says. That way you can see. And then if you have then you don't have to trust me. This is not about trust. This is about making a rational decision. There is no reason, if you're paying that much money every month, there's no reason for you to have a Medicare Advantage plan. You should have a supplement plan if you can qualify for one. And if you can't, there's no Medicare Advantage plan in this world that is worth more than $50 a month. There are some that are maybe worth $50. There is none that are worth more than that. They just don't exist.
On the flip side, though, I wrote a case this week, I think, in Maryland, which is an absolute garbage market for Medicare Advantage. And the client was so excited to get a $69 a month Medicare Advantage plan because there are two in Cecil County. Yeah. And that one is the best of the two for his particular situation. But I like your approach. I did the exact same thing. I walked her through the summary of benefits and I compared current plan to the next plan. And it was literally identical. And I'm like, Ms. Johnson, I got to go through this to make sure that we're not missing something, because maybe I am. Same, line by line. And at that point, she didn't need to trust me. She just needed to read and see that they were literally the same plan.
Yeah.
Is it compliant to say, though, because this is what I said, maybe I'm uncompliant, maybe you just have an outdated version of the new plan. Maybe this is just something that really doesn't get used much anymore, and this is the more up-to-date version of what they'd prefer you to be in.
I mean, if you're saying maybe, I don't think there's anything non-compliant about speculation. I don't think you have to worry about that. Where you get into trouble compliance-wise, potentially, sorta, is if you start making definitive statements about plans that you don't represent. So if you were not contracted with that carrier, you can't say something like, this is an old version of that plan. All you can do is read the summary of benefits. That's a weird, finicky compliance line, but technically.
I used to see that all the time. I'm like, maybe this is an old Health Partners plan and the new one is zero premium. Maybe. Yeah. I don't see this one much anymore. And they have a newer one that does the same thing. Let's look at it together and maybe it's a good fit for you.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with speculating or talking about your own personal experiences, as long as you're making it clear that it is speculation or your own personal experiences. Or if you're contracted with the carrier and you actually know and you're giving factual information, then you can do that. But if you're not, the compliance gets weird. Compliance gets real weird.
For the sake of compliance, these are all anecdotal stories. There's no specific sales situations involved. Any carrier names used in this video are only out of the goodness of our heart. We love you in compliance.
Absolutely.
All righty, Nick, I appreciate you taking 23 minutes and 2 seconds with me this Friday morning. We might do another, we might not, but make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment below, even if you disagree. Disagreements are fine. And if you see us in the shorts reel, push that thumbs up button on the side. Our shorts get a boatload of views. A few folks watch what we talk about and we love them, but those shorts, when they spin through and people click on them and you see us, click the thumbs up so other people see us as well.